Good morning. I don't know if you've noticed, but if flags and yard signs supporting one political candidate to the other was an actual valid poll, Kamala Harris would be in a lot of trouble, at least in my area. Yesterday, I went from downtown.
Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the...
Damn Bongino trying to break in. Yesterday, I went from downtown up to Fisher's Landing, and I saw several of those trailers that were selling pro-Trump flags, American flags with Trump's name incorporated into a design somehow. My favorite is "You Missed, Motherfucker" with the picture of Trump raising his hand. But I didn't see any flags supporting Kamala Harris. And I believe that's actually an accurate poll. Not only that, I talked to a lot of people. And I have yet to see anybody that gets offended by me wearing this hat anymore. In fact, I get compliments on it. They ask me where I could buy one. This is an original, so I don't think it's even on the market anymore. But have you seen anybody that actually wants to support the stale overused tampon that's trying to steal the White House again? I have talked to black women. I've talked to black men that want to actually see her dead. And that's being nice. What they describe that they want to do to her, putting her in a dumpster full of rats and just tying down the lid. I would actually like to see that, to be honest. I really would. Anyway, I'm Anatoly Anatoly. This is Patriots Must Rise. Let's get into this. We have a long line of violent succession in this country that people don't realize has even happened. There's going to be a link in the description that flushes it out a little bit better and backs up what I'm saying with links to my research, where I got my research. But to begin with, in 1806, Andrew Jackson had 6 duels on the same date. 6 duels to the death with pistols on May 6th. Apparently, the number 666 works out very well for a Democrat. If you didn't catch it, 1806, May 6, and 6 duels. All right, so one of those duels was his opponent for the presidency. He was a fellow plantation owner and a fellow Democrat. He convinced hold on a second. Let's get this right. Bear with me here. Yeah. He convinced his opponent, both for the presidential run and in the duel, that he wasn't going to fight. So the man walked away, and by all accounts, Jackson raised his gun again and shot him in the back, dead instantly. This is the foundation. Well, this was the founder of the Democrat Party, and this has been the foundation of how they behave when they're doing business with anyone, whether or not it's a political opponent or doing business, or even how they keep friends. These are demons. Later on, Andrew Johnson, the only Democrat running mate that ran with the Republican nominee for the presidency, ran with Abraham Lincoln. Contracted the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He didn't like his policies, and he knew that because he was the vice president, that the seat of power would go back to the Democrats, and he was hoping that eventually slavery would return to America. So he used the fact that Abraham Lincoln trusted the Pinkertons enough. The Pinkerton Investigation Service, or the Pinkerton Detective Agency, I think it officially was called at the time, that would become the Secret Service. He trusted them enough to actually deputize them into what became known as the Secret Service 2 hours before his assassination. And ordinarily that would have been perfectly fine. But there was one Pinkerton that was still loyal to the gray. He was also an actor in a community play. He was known as John Wilkes Booth. He took up the cause of the South once again, and killed the president basically within plain sight. This was a true believer. He had no escape plan and no concern for his own safety. He just wanted to bring the glory of the South back to its rightful place, as many of the journals say. Once again, he was a Democrat. There's a long line of situations where the Democrats prove their lack of ethics when it comes to politics and so on. I refer you to the link in the description for much more on that. The point that I want to make now is that the Biden-Harris administration has actually authorized the United States military to use lethal force on Americans. And I say Americans, not Democrats. Democrats are communists. Actual Americans. You know, the people that opposed the installment of Joe Biden when it was very clear that Donald Trump won the presidency in 2020. The J6ers would have been executed if their authorization would have been utilized. I personally do not believe that we went far enough with the J6 events. January 6, 2021 should be a day of mourning for America because we lost our freedom the moment that the election was certified. And the fact that a man that was once thought to be a patriot refused to send it back to the states and have them recount. I'm talking about Mike Pence. a man that I once considered a friend. I don't know, he sold out. I don't know what the motive was, other than the fact that he seems to be a rhino, and there's no redeeming that. I believe that anybody that ever supported the election of Joe Biden should never be allowed to run for public office again. Because we're talking about a blatant act of treason. We're talking about an organized coup at the election level, which is basically happening here in 2024 with the installment of Kamala Harris. Now, we know that there was a meeting with Joe Biden, Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi, and probably a few others. Because he said early on in his presidency that he knew that he was going to only be a one-term president. We have to conclude that if he was only going to be a one-term president, they were probably planning to do something with Kamala. But there was a problem. A big problem. Kamala's a fucking retard. She is less popular than the scum on the bottom of your garbage can. She was thrown away by California. She didn't even make it to the primaries for the presidency in the 2020 election. So they had to pull her out because Joe Biden promised America that his vice president would be an African American woman. Interesting, because during the campaign, she denied being African American. She was always saying that she was Indian, East Indian, a woman of color, but East Indian, not African American. But Joe Biden was constantly adamant that his vice president, his running mate, would be an African American woman, making Kamala Harris the first, not only the first woman in the vice presidency, but the first woman of color, which checked all of the boxes. She was literally a DEI hire. Nobody seemed to care about the fact that she's completely incompetent. Nobody seemed to care about the fact that in every state except for California, she failed the bar exam. She did not score high enough to actually make a national bar exam. She can only practice law in California, which is kind of disgusting if you think about it. it means you're an absolute failure, because California has the lowest standards for the bar in the nation. It means you are functionally retarded. Which, I guess for the Democrats, that's actually par for the course. They seem to elect the most incompetent people. And if that's the way they want to go, fine, but America needs higher standards than that. We need to be able to compete with China. We need to be able to compete with Japan. We need to be able to compete with Russia, who, by the way, people don't seem to understand this, but the countries that I just named have an obligated military. In other words, you are trained to be a soldier from the day you are born. You have everything as far as your education goes handed to you, but you have to put your life on the line in military service to pay for it for a decade. I believe that that's actually the way that America should go. I believe we would be better off for that, because military service tends to kill off liberalism. And that's actually kind of funny to me, because all of the countries that the liberals are constantly talking about with free healthcare and free education and so on, that they want to aspire to, also have obligated military service. Every member of the military is a citizen of Switzerland first, a soldier second. But you will serve or see prison time. There's no what if about it. Poland does the same thing. The only country that I don't believe does it other than America is Canada. And Canada is a cesspool at this point. Trudeau has destroyed it. So we need to raise our standards just a little bit. Japan has programs where 4-year-olds are learning how to use CAD, computer-aided drafting, and a CNC machine to actually make the parts that they designed. At 4 years old. They encourage the skills and talents of the child. What happened to that? We used to do that. Now we're more worried about whether or not they know that that gender is fluid, and it doesn't matter whether or not you have a dick or not if you identify as a woman. There's something very wrong with that. The schools that we have should not be teaching gender theory at all. We should be able to have a child plot plot a course to the moon by the time they're in the 5th grade. Because that's where we need to be technologically in the next 10 years. Instead, we're worried about whether or not we're going to elect a female president that is absolutely incompetent. We need to do better. And I'm not going to tell you to vote for Donald Trump. You know where I stand with that. But I am going to tell you that we need to vote for somebody that has a proven track record of success versus giving a blowjob to anybody that could actually move her career forward because she has nothing to stand on. And that's what this stale douchebag is. A fucking whore that slept her way to the top. We need to get rid of her. And I don't care how. I really don't. If she's thrown into a dumpster and with about a dozen rats and the lids chained shut, by all means, I encourage it. Because that's what she deserves. All right. We have a lot of issues in this country right now, and basically the press has just made them worse. When they're constantly trying to tell the naive that conservatives are racist with no evidence that they are racist, you know there's a problem. When you actually hear from somebody that thinks that they know what they're talking about, that somewhere along the line there was a switch and the Democrats changed ideologies and stopped being racist. I ask you to actually look at that. Talk to your Democrat friend and ask them to explain why Donald Trump is racist. Why all Republicans are racist. There might be some that are. Don't get me wrong. You can't say otherwise. But if you're going to make the statement, back it up. Actually back it up. I mean, they say Donald Trump's racist, and yet he primarily employs Hispanics and African Americans at very good wages. Starting at an entry-level union job, he's paying $52 an hour. And he doesn't have to. I don't think that's racist. Okay? Yet at the same time, I've been called a white nigger piece of shit by a Democrat. Just doing my job. So maybe you should actually look at the history of the party before you make assumptions. Because who's guilty of inspiring the Nazi movement in Germany? The Democrats. Who's guilty of funding World War II in Nazi Germany? The Democrats. Who's guilty of starting the Ku Klux Klan in the South? The Democrats. Who's guilty of killing off their own constituents because they can't make the promises that they made? They can't make them come true, so they refuse to actually help people after a storm and arrest people that are trying to help them. The Democrats. It kind of seems like we need to seriously raise the bar. Because if you're voting for a Democrat, you're voting for literally the bottom of a trash heap. All right. That's what I have for today. I'm Anatoliana Chalisva, and this is Patriots Must Rise. Please like, subscribe, live free, die well, and love your neighbor as Christ has loved you. About this point, there's a QR code in the corner. That's a gateway for donations. We could definitely use the help. Thanks, guys. Until next time.